This is Buffalo's Uncensored Sports Show. You're watching Buffalo After Dark. Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is Wednesday night, November 22nd, and of course, we can say this for the fourth time. It is our annual Thanksgiving special. So, of course, us truly, how's it going, man?
I'm good. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there who celebrate. I mean, I know you and me celebrate, Tom. So I think anybody out there that celebrates Thanksgiving, eat lots of food tomorrow. There's going to be plenty of football tomorrow. And enjoy the holiday, man. Be safe. Just be careful what you choose to do and, have a good time. That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, the same thing to everybody. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone who watches and everyone who's part of our page. We certainly appreciate it. And of course, just be safe tomorrow. Enjoy yourselves. Don't do anything stupid, I would tell you. But, yeah, although I did have my Buffalo Trace coffee today, which was a great find. So thanks, Mom, for getting me that.
Yeah, you were saying that since the Cincinnati trip that, the coffee is really good.
Well, I didn't even realize it with the Cincinnati trip, but it was one of those actually. My mom had found it in the store yesterday up by my house, and I'm like, and she's like, yeah, do you want me to get it for you? I'm like, sure, I'll try it out. So I opened up the box of K-Cups today. It comes in a box of 10, and I actually had it. And first thing you notice, great bourbon smell, has a little bit of a spicy kick to it, but it has a really nice bourbon flavor. So I was actually pretty impressed with it. It was relatively smooth.
Yeah, now that you're talking me into it, so now I'm gonna want to try it.
Yeah, well, depending when you come up here next month, I might actually have to take you and get a box. So so we'll have to do that. But it'll be fun. You got the place all set and ready to go for you. So of course, you'll be up here, and we'll be going to a couple games, doing some things, and from there, of course, we want to say to our friend Soph, we're gonna see you next month. We've got your stuff. And just real quick plug, if anyone is interested in supporting a good cause, check out the post we have on our page as of yesterday with her designs. She does bracelets. It goes to Oshai Children's, and actually what they decided to do is they're instead of Oshai Children's, they're actually going to help a family who's going through a similar situation that she is, kid who relapsed, unfortunately. So it's all a good cause. Definitely consider checking it out and give back.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, we're all proud of Sophia, no matter what she does.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it was fun to see her drop the puck a couple of games ago. So good stuff. But anyways, we're gonna see you guys next month, and just keep fighting that good fight. But in the meantime, we got a lot of show to get through. And if you want to give us a call, 929-205-6099. And of course, the biggest thing that the Bills did this week, besides getting back on track and crushing the Jets 32-6, Ken Dorsey finally got fired.
Yeah, that was true. I mean, if you remember, Trevor was on last week's episode, and we pretty much went on a tangent about how Ken Dorsey should have gotten fired maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever it was. And honestly, I think from looking at that Jet game, I think offensively, it still got some problems, but it's not perfect. I don't think anybody did. Let's be honest.
Right. That's a hell of a lot better than it was.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And you know what I love is everybody was saying, throw the ball to Stephon Diggs. Why don't you throw it to Stephon Diggs? Because Stephon Diggs is the reason why the Bills consistently were getting turnovers, because that was what Dorsey did. He just kept setting up plays where he would just only throw to Diggs and nobody else. And then Joe Brady comes down and says, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to diverse this whole system, and we're going to make sure that we make it trickier for teams to figure us out than, usual. Like maybe 3 weeks ago, teams probably would have figured the Bills out and would have been quote unquote predictable. Yeah. Now they're going from using just Stephon Diggs to actually using the run game. See, Ken, this is what you do. This is why you wouldn't have gotten fired, is if you actually use the running backs.
Right. James Cook, he had a great day catching for a couple scores, and he actually had a good yards per carry average. Then on top of that, look at Hardy. Look at the other backs that we had.
Oh, yeah. Ty Johnson was one of them,
Ty Johnson did great. And then look at Shakir, that 81-yard play.
That was like an insane route.
It's like finally you're using somebody that you should have been using, but you're too stubborn and butthurt not to use them because, oh, I need to get my Stefan Diggs. Oh, I need to get him my passes. Oh, I need to get it to him, or I need to get it to Stone Hands Gabe Davis.
And Trevor last week on the show said that Dorsey was most reluctant to throw the ball to Gabe Davis, aka Stonehands Dave. That's pretty much what it was. And then next thing you know, Dorsey finally got the can last week, and the Bills ended up winning their first game without him. But I think that this is only a sample size of what could come if the Bills play their cards right. Because I mentioned it last week, is that I will be on the road on Black Friday to go to Philadelphia for the Bills-Eagles game. And that to me will be the big test to see how this offense runs. Because you're going from one of the worst offensive teams in the league to one of the league's best and possibly the Super Bowl favorite.
Yeah. So, and they crushed the Chiefs this past week. So the Chiefs looked awful against the Eagles.
Oh my God.
That was pathetic.
I would say the Eagles too. I don't think they played their best game either. I don't care if they're 9-1. What I care though is if the Eagles were exposing their flaws, because the way that Nick Sirianni set up their offense reminds me so much of what Ken Dorsey did with the Bills.
Right. Especially when it goes pass heavy. And that was one of the biggest problems that we had. You're not running a balanced offense. And look at some of the drives that we had were initially, I mean, yes, it was a little bit of a slow start. We took the points on field goals. That's fine. At least get on the board, take something out of it. But when we're getting to the point where we're running, for example, 8 plays and we're doing like 4 pass plays, 4 run plays, or even like 13 drives and you're doing like 7 runs, 6 passes. At least now we're saying, okay, there's balance, and we're not consistently targeting the same freaking player every single time. So It was nice to see things open up, and look at Dalton Kincaid. He had a great game. He got some really nice touches.
I'm very happy with Kincaid because the guy, even when Dorsey was the OC, Kincaid had a pretty good second half this year. I mean, he scored his first TD against the Buccaneers a few weeks ago, and then he had one, I think, on Monday night against Denver, and then he started to finally become a blocking tight end. I mean, I know Knox is injured, but Kincaid is getting more of a bigger role on the offense, which I think is great to see.
A lot more comfortable, and that's a good thing. And he's really showing one of the reasons why he was considered one of the better draft picks this past year. And he's doing exactly what is asked of him, which is great. So now the Bills have a good thing where you have, once Knox comes back and then Kincaid, you have 2 solid tight ends that you can work with, that you can leverage. And this is something that reminds me of what New England had back in the day, back when Gronk was around and when they were stacked with that. So having 2 solid tight ends that you have as a pass option, great deal to go with. But I love the fact that at least we finally got that run game going and we were able to kill a lot of clock. And that's another thing I want to mention. Clock management, way better.
Oh yeah,
we were not leaving the Jets with anything.
No,
and on top of that, the Jets' supposed good defense, we were torching them. Of course, they have some injuries,
right?
Same like us. And at least the good thing is with Rapp, at least he's fine, but he's not necessarily going to play this week, but thank goodness, at least everything's okay there. But at the same time, what I will say is it was much more balanced. That's what you have to do. And the nice thing is Josh Allen was not playing hero ball. And that's one thing Dorsey wanted him to do, which of course it came out after he got fired. And it's like, if you're expecting him to play hero ball and only give him like 2.2 seconds to throw, you're not going to have good results. Shit. And Washington just went up 3, just scored. So now it's tied game at 2.
Oh, so you're maybe a little behind, but
Oshie got the goal.
Oh, great. That's just lovely. But
yep. We failed to clear it out of the zone. And there was absolutely no stopping that one. Off the rebound.
That's freaking lovely. But, Jenna, what were we saying again? Oh yeah, the Bills. So, as far as, like, I agree with you in an extent with the whole hero ball thing, but that last second, like 2 seconds left in the second quarter, I thought was completely inexcusable.
Oh, yeah, the Hail Mary.
Yeah, that was just completely inexcusable.
Didn't need to
And
do that.
no, if they just ran to the left, that would have been done.
Yeah.
It would have
Yeah.
been done.
It's all good.
But we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. But then again, who knows? But as far as I'm concerned, I think the Bills offensively played a much better game. Probably the first time since like what, week 4 against Miami, where they put
Yeah,
up.
it's like 4 weeks. It's been 4 weeks since we put up 30 points or more.
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad the Bills are finally getting their momentum back. But this is only a sample size of what we could see from Joe Brady. If they somehow, I will say this, if they somehow beat the Eagles, Joe Brady keeps the job. If they don't beat the Eagles,
It's
I
anybody's
still have
guess.
questions about him.
Right.
And I mean, that's just reality. Like I've seen people say, "Oh, the Bills could go 11-6," or "Oh, the Bills could be a wild card team," because the wild card race in the AFC is up for grabs. Either
Right.
everybody's injured or just pure luck. I mean,
Yeah. Well, Pittsburgh being in the wild card race is pure luck because of Matt Canada, but at least his ass got fired yesterday. So
how the hell did they even get to that point?
right. He was fired 2 years too late.
Right. But I will say people will automatically dismiss the game and they'd be like, yeah, it's the Jets, it's whatever. But that's the problem. Their offense is abysmal. But if you look at it to account, the Jets have, I think, a top 10 defense in the NFL.
Yeah. Salah is a great D man.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets let him go in the end of the year. And plus, don't get me started with this whole Aaron Rodgers thing, because that guy is already getting under my skin.
Yeah, exactly. Which I will say, if the Jets do decide to let Robert Saleh go, all I can say is Brandon Bean, pick him up as a D coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
It would
There's
be
plenty of guys that are
awesome
going to be available. He would be. But it comes down to execution. And I said this last week as well, that it comes down to 3 main points. And one of the main points was execution. So Dorsey didn't do that, and Joe Brady's taking that step. Like, I know he's an interim coach, but there's a major difference between Ken Dorsey and Joe Brady. Joe Brady actually had experience as an offensive coordinator in college. The dude had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
And he won national championships.
And he won a national championship. So Brady has firsthand experience. And people, I would probably think, would give him the benefit of the doubt because he was in Carolina and they had no quarterback with no players. So I give him the benefit of the doubt. But I think, and again, if they beat the Eagles on Sunday, which I think they can, I think they, based on how they played against the Jets,
possible.
I definitely think they can do it. Yeah, they definitely can do it. And the Eagles, too, they're going to go into this game on Sunday in the Kelly Green jerseys. And as well as that, they're going to be so cocky. And they're going to be running around saying, we are the shit. We're going to be the damn world champs later in the future. Like, congratulations. You know, you beat the Kansas City Chiefs because you're a little, vendetta from the Super Bowl is over. You beat the Chiefs. And then you have that viral clip of Nick Sirianni acting like a 10-year-old, basically rubbing it in Chiefs fans' faces, like saying, we're the shit. We're this. And then now they got to play Buffalo on Sunday in Philly, which is home field advantage. I mean, it's not the first time that the Bills have gone into a hostile environment. I mean, we saw this firsthand in person against Kansas City last year.
We did.
And they went to Arrowhead and they beat them.
Yeah.
So, but I think generally, from within the last 2 years, the Chiefs have already lost 3 times at Arrowhead. One of those losses was against the Bills.
Yep, exactly. And the Chiefs are pretty banged up right now, too. So they're not clicking on all cylinders with their offense, and their defense is definitely not holding up the way that it should.
I actually made a bold move this week in fantasy football at my job. And because I have Patrick Mahomes and I have CJ Stroud, I actually benched Patrick Mahomes for CJ Stroud, and I still won.
Nice. And the funny thing is, even on our fantasy team or our fantasy league for our second QB, I actually benched Trevor Lawrence and I still ended up beating Andy. So I'm like, all right, that's good. Still beat him by like a 30-point cushion. Now, had I not benched Trevor Lawrence, and actually trying to think, there was like one other player, had I not benched him. I mean, well, actually, had I not benched the Dallas defense, I played Pittsburgh for some reason.
Right.
That would have been 60 more points. That would have been probably like the biggest blowout any of us have ever had in anything with this league.
Damn, dude.
That would have been right there. It would have been literally like a 90-point blowout.
Speaking of blowouts, let's talk about the Bengals, because that was a blowout with
Oh God.
God fucking damn it. Can the Bengals once
Oh
not get in trouble?
yeah, like I say, it's Joe Burrow. You're screwed.
Dude, that's a serious injury. I mean,
It
yeah,
is.
Tua's injury was pretty serious too.
Right.
Fencing last year and then having multiple concussions. Like that alone is neurological brain damage. What
Right.
the Bengals did was probably almost worse, maybe second worst. At least it's not a concussion. But the thing that irritates me the most is this. The Bengals had all of the leverage going to Thursday night's game against Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not put Joe Burrow on the injury report, and it's mandatory in the
Yeah,
NFL to do
you
that.
have to. You
You
have
you
to.
have to by NFL standards. No matter what the injury is or who the player is, you have to put them on the injury report. And the Cincinnati chose not to do it with Joe Burrow. And the Bengals even deleted a video of a wristband like brace that was on his right throwing hand
Mm-hmm.
going to the game in Baltimore. And they were just pretending as if nothing happened. And then immediately after they scored the touchdown in the second quarter, like 5 minutes into the second or 10 minutes into the second quarter against Baltimore, you see Joe Burrow in agony after scoring the touchdown.
Oh yeah, he was hurting.
Oh yeah, and then next thing you know, it comes out later that it's nerve damage within the hands. So that right there is your biggest blow of the entire season right there. Because
Yep.
I've said this in the past for at least a year or three. And that was, I said, Joe Burrow rides and dies with the Cincinnati Bengals,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how you splice it. Because the Bengals going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon all they want. They went to the Super Bowl just 2 years ago. We know this. But again, the Bengals are in that situation where they had a chance to make the playoffs. It was
Mm-hmm.
already clear as day that he was injured in the beginning of the year with his hamstring, and he wasn't even 100%. And
Yeah.
just when the Bengals just started to get their strides, boom, that in reality hit them in the face, and
Yep.
then the hand injury came up,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not gonna say it's permanent, because if it was permanent, his career would be over.
Right.
But the Bengals could be in jeopardy to not only get fined, but they can also lose draft picks.
Yep. And
It,
even better, it's like here you go. Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, this is the NFL head office. Fuck you. You're under investigation.
yeah, exactly. And they're going to be like, explain to us why you didn't put Joe Burrow on the injury report like you were supposed to. Because I remember the Dolphins did that with the whole tampering thing a year or two ago when they
Mm-hmm.
tried to get Tom Brady, and they were in trouble, and they got in a lot of trouble for doing that. And they lost
Yeah.
draft picks, including a first, just for trying to tamper with
Yep.
Tom Brady at the time.
Yeah, it's absolutely stupid what they did. So it's like, hey, karma bit them in the ass with that performance.
So this is very much a shot to see possibly the Bills making it into the playoffs without Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Time will tell. I mean, they have some good weapons. We saw that firsthand when we were in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, but I mean, with no Joe Burrow, they're in tough shape. So
Well, yeah, like I said before, everything the Bengals do rides and dies with Joe Burrow. No
yep.
excuse in between. The Bengals did that to themselves. And the other thing I want to mention real quick is regarding the playoff race, there are at least 5 teams in the AFC right now that have a shot to make the playoffs, but they're
Mm-hmm.
all missing something. Like, here, let's go through this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You have Houston with CJ Stroud, who's been starting to pick up his strides.
Yeah.
He's a good young player. Houston, I can see making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is ass. Even if they fire Matt Canada.
Yeah. Pickett ain't going to do anything.
No. I have no faith in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cleveland, another shit show. But you're already down Nick Chubb, and you're now down Deshaun Watson. But you're somehow 7-3, second in the AFC North.
With
no
Deshaun Watson virtually not playing at all this season.
I like, how are the Browns? How are they this good? Outside the defense, though, the defense is really damn good.
Yeah.
I'll give Cleveland that.
Yeah. I mean, part of it, that division is ass to begin with.
Yeah, Buffalo. Buffalo is in the same situation, but they at least have all of their offensive guys healthy, knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
And
even with the defense completely banged up, they're still making things happen. They're still finding ways to play. And a lot of what we've been dealing with, it's not really been on the defensive side of the ball that's been the problem. It was really the offensive side of the ball not doing anything.
Right. And all the defensive guys, I get it, are hurt for the Bills, but at least the Bills are making it entertaining. They're making it interesting for everybody else. Then you have teams like Indianapolis and Vegas. Indianapolis, I don't have really that much faith in, let's be honest with ourselves here.
I don't either. Vegas could get interesting.
But I think one team that stands out from the rest is Denver. Denver can make it very interesting.
Sean Payton and the Broncos are actually on a pretty good run right now.
Yeah, I think they won like 4 straight. And their defense has risen from the dead. And Russell Wilson is slowly getting back to form. Do I think they make the playoffs? Yes. But do I think they go far? No. But
no, I would say wild card at best.
Yeah. So I will say this for Buffalo. If they're going to make the playoffs, the next 3 weeks, Jacksonville has 3 of their opponents that are in this hunt. You have Houston, Cleveland, and Cincinnati in that order. Jacksonville has to win all 3 of those games in order for Buffalo to have some sort of shot. Yeah. But it's also down to Buffalo to control their own destiny because they have to beat Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Dallas.
And they have beaten Dallas before, and they've beaten Kansas City before.
But never have they beat Philadelphia.
Exactly. And at least if the Bills decide it's like, okay, we go on that win streak, the good thing that happens out of it is that us versus Miami, with how we whooped Miami's ass earlier in the season, that helps us.
Well, I think if the Bills make the playoffs, they would either play Jacksonville or Baltimore or even Kansas City.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see either way.
I don't see Miami going very far in the playoffs.
I don't either. Offensively, they're okay. Defensively, they're a big question mark.
You know what would be hysterical, Tom, is the Black Friday game coming up, which is the first ever in NFL history. Wouldn't it be funny as hell if Tim fucking Boyle, of all people, on primetime, beats the Jets?
That would be funny.
That would be freaking hysterical. Dude, I will laugh my ass off. And unfortunately, I won't be able to get to see the game because, again, for the billionth time, I'm going to be on my way to Philadelphia. And I'm going to have to probably listen to the game or try to stream it on my phone as much as possible. I will try my best to try to get the game.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of good football still left, so that's a big plus. And really, before we go into the second half of the show, there's actually 2 last things we wanted to talk about. So first, Frank Reich, oh my God, his job's on the line.
Oh my God. And this is again why Carolina is a shit show, because they have a GM who thought it was a good idea to trade your first overall pick this year coming up to Chicago just for Bryce Young, who has so far not panned out. But I'm not going to say that's his fault because the offensive line is so bad and the team around them is bad in general. Like, I can't express this enough. Like, the Carolina Panthers are probably the worst team in the NFL this year, and they don't even have a pick of their own.
Yeah, that is pretty bad. And of course, once they gave up CMC and he went to the 49ers, there went any source of offense that they had.
Oh my God. Carolina is such a weird team to me. Like, the Panthers, like, I can't express this enough with them. Like, the Panthers are such a corrupt shit show. Dave Tepper is such a hands-on order. It is so obvious just from based on day-to-day operations over in Charlotte. It is insane with how bad the Panthers are.
Yeah. Think of it this way. It's Jerry Jones, except 100 times worse, except the only difference is Jerry Jones can actually win.
Well, yeah, that too. Well, Jerry Jones is a whack job. Same with Jim Irsay. But Jim Irsay is another dipshit of an owner. Yeah. But Dave Tepper has been the owner now for 5 years and has done nothing to improve his craft.
Yeah. In fact, it's gotten way worse. So the Carolina Panthers are basically unwatchable.
And people said Jerry Richardson was bad. Yeah, look at Dave Tepper and tell me
way worse.
If I were the Panthers, between having Jerry Richardson or Dave Tepper, give me Richardson. I know there was racist allegations against him at the time, and that's why he sold the team. But I would much rather take Jerry Richardson than Dave Tepper if it came down to football operations.
Yeah, at least he tried to do something with the team. And right now Tepper is doing absolutely nothing. So that's another nasty thing altogether. But
oh yeah.
But the last thing we'll talk about, well, and real quick, Jimmy Johnson, at least you're getting inducted to the Ring of Honor finally, because Jerry Jones decided to stop having that pissing contest.
Yeah, just trying to one up him and say I was better than Jimmy Johnson. And it's just like, come on, man. You're not doing yourselves any favors.
Right. So at least congrats to Jimmy Johnson on that. And then really the last thing we want to talk about, Darius Leonard. Oh man.
Oh my God.
Are the Indianapolis Colts that fucking stupid?
Yes, Tom. They are that fucking stupid. Like they're not.
Why would you cut him?
Why? I don't know. And you know what's really bad about all this? Darius Leonard didn't even say a word to the Colts. He did not want to be released. He never requested it. Right. The Colts just said, we're going to just cut you. And you know what's really sad is the Colts cut him while he was giving away free turkeys to the local communities in Indianapolis.
Yeah, douchebag move right there. And I gotta say this. I mean, I don't know what's in the water in Indy. Maybe Luffy ended up giving them some of his like high potent weed or something. I don't know. But that was literally, I would have to say, out of the stupidest GM moves that we have seen, that's got to be a top 10 stupidest GM move that we've ever seen.
What the fuck is wrong with this guy? Oh, and I love how Jim Irsay, the day that Darius Leonard gets released, he then went on a temper tantrum saying that, I forget exactly what the wording was, but Jim Irsay went on a rant basically saying that, why rich people in the NFL, particularly owners, are hated because they're white or something. Some stupid racist, temper tantrum that Jim Irsay threw on Twitter.
Right.
And people are just losing their minds. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Mm-hmm. And with 3:42 left in the second, Dylan Cousins makes us go ahead 3-2.
Nice.
So,
beautiful.
Yes. Actually, just watching a little bit of the... Yeah.
A little overdue there, Cuzzy. Just saying.
Right from the left face-off circle. Beautiful.
Nice. So Jim Irsay is a piece of shit owner. No question about it.
Exactly. And if I'm the Bills, hey, I'd reach out and see if we can acquire him.
Who? You want to hire Darius Leonard?
Possibly. Why not?
That's true. But then again, I want to see if I could find that comment I was talking about before with the whole Jim Irsay thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would just be funny to me how people would interact on it. You know what I mean? Like, Jim Irsay is just a piece of shit in general. Like, I don't understand why people give him so much praise and love when in reality they don't. He's just a prick.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, good job, Indy. You get one of the stupidest GM moves of the season.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, same here. But with that, what we'll do is it's kind of funny how fast a half hour goes. But on the second half of the show, we're going to jump right into the Sabres. We have some real time action going on, so of course we'll talk to you about that. And of course, we've got some interesting hockey news as well. So stick with us. We'll be right back. I'm Tom Wuchek, co-host of Buffalo After Dark. Founded by Matthew Keeler, Dishin is a Buffalo-based fashion label focusing on continuous experimentation in hockey. Their work consists of products, content, and experiences that inspire creativity. Playful curation provides energy that sparks a unique perspective and an ideology around seeing the game differently. Now you can save. Log on to justdishin.com and use promo code WUJEK at checkout. You'll save 10% on all of your purchases. That is spelled W-U-J-E-K. Dishin has built an influential following devoted to the infusion of creative expression through high-quality goods and tasteful collaboration. If you love creative products that push the boundaries, check out Dishin. Visit their website at justdishin.com. This is Buffalo's Uncensored Sports Show. You're watching Buffalo After Dark. All right, Welcome back to the second half of Buffalo After Dark. Of course, you got the two of us tonight. And if you want to give us a call, we are at 929-205-6099. And of course, you can join us on Facebook. And if you want to check out some of our earlier episodes from the last 4 seasons, definitely check us out on YouTube. And we do have Spotify, so you can catch us on the go. But right as we get into a real-time update with 2:35 left in the second, Sabres are back in the lead 3-2 against the Caps. Dylan Cousins puts us ahead with the power play goals. So great to see at least something working for the Sabres in terms of the power play tonight.
But yeah, something.
And then something.
I mean, that's just putting it gently.
Yeah. And of course, we did actually get the win against the Blackhawks, which is a team I would expect that we would get a win against because they suck so bad. So
wait, why would you expect them to beat the Blackhawks? Yet they couldn't beat the fucking Penguins.
Well, the Penguins suck ass too. It's just still, I mean, the Penguins are a team that we should beat. The Blackhawks are a team that we should beat, but yet we sucked ass against the Penguins.
And they're somehow beating the Capitals.
Yeah, which is even more of a surprise.
Hockey's such a weird sport to follow because it's like 1 week that they do something special, then they shit the bed against some teams that are worse than them.
Exactly. It's funny how it works out sometimes, but one thing that we will say though, if anyone gets a chance, definitely look at Zach Benson's goal tonight. He got his first of his career, beautiful goal to see.
Reminds me of Matt Barzal's goal during the COVID vaccine season. I think it was like 2021 or something like that, with no attendance or some partial fans or whatever that was. Again, in between the legs on Carter Hutton, I believe it was at the time. And that was just a thing of beauty. And I was at the Coliseum too, so I remember that. That's what Zach Benson's first career goal looks like.
Yeah, great way to get your first point, get your first goal on the board there. So awesome to see him play with that. And of course, we'll see what else happens as we go throughout the game tonight. Which we're coming to the end of the second period, and the Caps basically looks like they're we're back to full strength. So we killed another penalty, so that's good. See, which is one of the bright spots of the season. At least our penalty killing too bad.
They're PK god for some reason.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Like, if people say to me, "Oh, the Sabres this, the Sabres that," oh, they're not a serious hockey team. Well, they clearly just killed fucking penalties all year. Like Trevor went on a fucking rant last week about the Sabres. Like he was just like, I could tell you like 10,000 reasons why the Sabres suck. Like Trevor, relax.
Right. The penalty kill is not one of them this year.
Somehow that's a positive. Somehow it's positive.
Especially when we sucked on the PK last year. So somehow we had like a light switch flipped on or something.
One of the things that was mentioned in last week's episode was how Trevor was going on a rant about how the Sabres should send Devin Levi to Rochester. And guess what? A week after that episode came out, there's been some news articles within the Sabres region and the Buffalo region about how the Sabres should send Devin Levi to Rochester. And I'm just sitting there thinking, Trevor was just talking about that.
Yeah. And he does make some good points. I mean, I get it. And end of the second, it's 3-2 in favor of the Sabres. So of course, and speak of who's in net, Devin Levi tonight.
Well, let's hope he can get a win because if he continues to struggle, you have to take into consideration of sending him to Rochester.
Yeah, especially if that's the case. So hopefully, get a win on the board. I mean, we're not completely out of it, but we're not completely in it either. So that's kind of where we're at. But with that being said, one of the big things that came out this week is, of course, Milan Lucic is in the news again because he decided to do a little bit of fisticuffs with his significant other and basically got his ass arrested for domestic violence. So he's on a leave of absence. And of course, the NHLPA reached out to him for the player assistance and all that. But yeah, Lucic, man, not a good look for you and not a good look for your team either.
Yeah, and it also says too that he was apparently choking her to death, apparently, and he also appeared, drunk. But like battery allegations and assault just in general, I don't care if you're married or not, you don't ever put your hands on a woman, ever.
Exactly.
And You don't ever do that. You don't ever put your hands on somebody else, specifically a woman or a man. Doesn't matter who it is. Like unless they throw the first punch, then you have the right to do it. But if you do it first, you have no right to touch somebody like that.
Exactly. And he's a dumbass for doing it, allegedly. So,
yep. And the Boston Bruins are learning the hard way of what to do with those kinds of guys. I knew from when the Bruins announced that they were going to get Milan Lucic back, I knew right there and then, like, oh, cool, you're bringing back the old guard. And now you just wasted $4 million on a veteran winger who has pretty much is out of his prime and he's not what he used to be. And now he's being accused for assault and being intoxicated. And it's getting ridiculous too, to the point where Lucic was actually released on personnel reconciled and arrangements on assault charges. So basically he got bailed out.
Yeah, exactly. And all I can say is, not a good look, not even smart. I mean, $4 million for what he's doing is not even worth it. So it's just one of those things. Unfortunately, the Bruins, you got to deal with it at this point. And when you're allegedly a wife beater, that's not that's not good.
He's also expected to be entering the NHL and NHLPA Players Assistant Program while he remains in indefinite leave by the Boston Bruins. So the Bruins, as they go, as good as they are this year, surprisingly. I mean, last year it was surprising with getting 65 wins, being the biggest choke artist in the NHL. We all saw that.
Yeah, losing to Florida, that was absolutely great.
To be telling you the truth, I would probably expect the same thing again later this year in the playoffs. Like, that's not till April, so we're not going to know that until then. But I will say is the Bruins are basically a boys club, and they make every move to bring veteran players back. And what stuns me about this curation of the Boston Bruins is Bergeron and Krejci are both retired. And Bergeron is definitely not coming back. He's done.
Right.
But as far as everybody else, it's the same team as last year. The only difference is you brought in James Van Riemsdyk.
Right. And, it's not really anything different there. So needless to say, it's like, if we want the NHL version of the good old boys club, Boston Bruins are definitely at the top of that list.
Well, LA's in there too, but at least LA is good.
Right. Yeah, after they had a couple disastrous seasons, I mean, they're actually playing well again. So good to see that at least.
Oh, speaking of boys club, San Jose is definitely a boys club.
Oh, God.
San Jose is a fucking nightmare. So is Edmonton.
Yeah. If Rob was here, he would probably have a meltdown about the San Jose Sharks.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Yeah. That team is ass. Straight up. That is like the definition of ass.
Yeah, you want to talk about ass? How about Edmonton? Edmonton is the biggest joke in the NHL. So let me put it to you this way, ladies and gents. The Edmonton Oilers, as we currently stand, as of November 22nd, 2023, the Edmonton Oilers sit 30th in the NHL with a 5-11-1 record with 11 points, and they were minus 16. And their biggest issue, and even if they trade for Jake Allen or for any other goaltender for that matter, it doesn't matter if it's Stuart Skinner or Jack Campbell. The goaltending has been abysmal for Edmonton this year.
That is easily one of the worst teams when it comes to goaltending. They have no goaltending depth.
How the fuck did the Edmonton Oilers, for the last 5 years that were in the conversation for the Cup, they went to the conference finals almost 2 years ago. They got swept by Colorado, and you still at somehow you still have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on your team, and you are all the way down to the bottom of the pit.
Yeah.
It's like
that shouldn't be happening. That should not be happening. And I mean, look at it. Draisaitl, great player. McDavid, great player. Everybody knows that. It's like literally in like 5 years, you still haven't built around them.
Yeah, and guess what? The only reason Edmonton is even close to relevant is because of McDavid and Draisaitl.
Right. If I'm the Sabres, I'm like, I don't care what I got for cap space. I would call and try to make a play on both of them.
Oh, dude, I would totally do it. But the only problem is that if they do that,
you'd be giving up like 7 years of draft picks, probably.
Well, they would have to also give up the farm. That means like they would have to give up like Zach Benson. They would have to give up like Matt Savoy or Yuri Kulik or
they'd
whoever.
Probably have to give up Levi and some others. And it's like, you don't want to necessarily take that risk.
Yeah, that's the only issue I have with that. As much as I love this idea, to get McDavid or Draisaitl to play for the Sabres, I don't think that's a good idea.
Right. It's even worse. The Columbus Blue Jackets and actually Patrick Laine is to the point where he got benched for the first time in his career.
You know what's even more pathetic? Let me go back. You know what's even more pathetic? The Philadelphia Flyers are better than the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, that's bad.
Hell, the Vancouver Canucks are better than the Edmonton Oilers.
Vancouver Canucks are actually playing really damn good right now out in the West, however that happened.
This year, and people were saying the NFL was broken, the NHL was broken.
Right. Hey, you never know. Maybe it's the new scoreboard they got it for Vancouver that actually somehow brought them to life.
The Vancouver Canucks are playing so good right now as they're playing some really good hockey to the point that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were at the Canucks game the other night.
Yeah, that's saying something. I mean, and Vancouver is actually playing well offensively. Their defense is good. They have decent goaltending. So they're actually a pretty well balanced team for right now.
How?
Exactly. When a lot of the roster is the same as last year.
Vancouver is such a weird team because we were talking about Vancouver for at least 3 years about how much of a dumpster fire they were, getting rid of Bruce Boudreau and then trading away assets for the future. Oh, there's uncertainty with, Brock Besser and Elias Patterson, and hell, he wants to sign a bridge deal in Vancouver.
Right.
Patrick Demko was talked about.
They got rid of Bo Horvat.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. I mean, I do like Bo Horvat. He's doing pretty good for himself on the Islanders. But point being is Vancouver is such a weird team.
I know. And they even got the pylon Tyler Myers.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if the Vancouver Canucks are a reincarnation of the 2012 Coyotes, where they go on a deep playoff run out of their ass and literally just take the league by storm.
Yeah, they're actually playing well right now. But even funnier, though, Seattle had a great season last year, and they are not playing to expectations this year.
No, and they're going to get smacked by Vegas in the Winter Classic in January.
Oh, yeah, Vegas will annihilate them. So, I mean, Vegas is literally, they're actually healthy this year, which is the first in a while. So, I mean, I expect them to make another deep run.
I also expect Seattle to beat San Jose tonight.
Well, if they don't, then Hextall should be let go.
Oh, forget it. If they don't beat San Jose, then you need to get fucked. But tonight's going to be a good game. Vancouver and Colorado is going to be on tonight.
Yeah, that'll be a nice matchup there. And then as we look into some of the other things going on in hockey, Mike Modano is now going to be immortalized with the statue.
So he's basically their Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Well,
all for the 1990, hey, good old 1999, if everyone remembers, but wish we all want to forget.
No, I mean, still, I should mention too, the date is March 16th in 2024 is the day that the Dallas Stars unveil the new statue right outside of American Airlines Center. So that in a few months, we're going to see, like literally the day before St. Patrick's Day, when the Dallas Stars put that new statue of Mike Modano outside of the stadium. And I like when teams do that because it actually pays tribute to the legends that played for them beforehand, but within the new generation.
Yeah, very true. I mean, we've seen teams do that before. I mean, here in Buffalo, I mean, we have the French Connection statue, we have the Tim Horton statue. So we definitely have those things here, which is great.
The Mets like a year ago put up the they just introduced the Tom Seaver statue outside of Citi Field.
Yeah, I saw that earlier this summer. And then of course, in Pittsburgh, I've been to PPG Paints Arena a couple times, and they have the Mario Lemieux statue outside. So, which he was their franchise for so many years, which is great. And I mean, great player in his time.
Yeah, and then in Crypto.com, or formerly known as Staples Center in Los Angeles, right outside there is Wayne Gretzky, and then you have, I think, Marcel Dion's in there, I believe. I don't wear the Triple Crown line. I don't really know. But I also know for basketball, I think if I remember,
they have the Kobe, the Kobe statue.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant's out there. May he rest in peace. And I want to say Magic Johnson is there too. I really don't know.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that he's definitely looked at very highly by the Lakers, obviously, for everything that he did during his time. And Kobe was a great player in his own right, even after Shaq left during his time. I mean, Kobe went on to win titles on his own. So he showed he was one of the absolute best that has ever played in that position.
Oh yeah.
So absolutely great to see that. Now, of course, one of the favorite arguments I have, just getting a little off topic here, is Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, who's the greatest of all time. Between them two, I still have to put Michael Jordan up there because he played in an era where the league was a lot tougher than it is now. I mean, you get calls on soft stuff all the time now. Back then, you could be physical, and players were getting the hell beat out of them every single night. So the points that you got, you had to earn those points. And Michael Jordan was great during that era, especially with some of the players that he went up against. So I still have to give the nod to Jordan on it. But I mean, there's no doubt. There's no doubt LeBron's a good player also. I mean, he has been for 20 plus years, and he's still going. So,
Well, for me, I would say, like, as far as like that opinion, I would say I'm not a basketball guy, and I've heard a lot of conversation about LeBron James and Michael Jordan. But if you ask me as a casual, hockey fan and football fan who knows nothing about basketball, I would probably say Michael Jordan would probably have been the better basketball player, but LeBron in his own right is phenomenal.
Yeah, he is. And there's definitely no taking away from that.
But the biggest takeaway I will say, and I know this firsthand, is LeBron went from team to team to team because of the narrative that he was going to be better than Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. And then he had to go to 3 different teams to win his rings. And I think he won, I think if I remember correctly, I think he won 2 with Miami, with the Miami Heat. I think if I remember correctly.
He got 1 with the Cleveland.
And he got 1 with the Cavaliers, and then he got 1 with the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I remember it. That's as close as I know about basketball. Like, if you ask me about like prospects, I don't know shit about basketball.
Yeah, I'm not up to it as much either on that. But big difference, Michael Jordan, he won all of his rings with the same team.
Yeah.
And he won rings after he came back from retirement.
Well, we don't talk about that.
Right. So I mean, same thing. What he did during his time. I mean, he ended up winning rings, and he had a great team around him at that point. So it was a great era, especially to watch basketball now. And I'm actually getting a little bit back into it and just watching some games casually. But
I have no desire to watch it. I'm sorry for those of you who watch the show or listen to the show. I'm sorry. You will never hear me talk about basketball like this. This is probably the one time I do, but I don't care. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a favorite team. I don't have any of that. I can care less. But I know for a fact in my neck of the woods, it is huge with basketball here, with the Knicks and with the Nets. And there's like Celtics fans and Lakers fans and the Heat fans. There's a lot of fans of different teams in New York State, and particularly in like Long Island and New York City and Brooklyn and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it has a very big cult following. So I can't really shit on the fans because I've been to 1 Knicks game, and that was like 12 years ago. I think it was like 2011 when like the Knicks had like Carmelo Anthony and Amari Stoudemire. I don't know dick about basketball at this point. That's as close as I remember it. But as far as statues go, I think when I went to Boston last year for Road to 32 to see the Patriots, I know for a fact, because I was inside TD Garden, there is, in fact, a Bobby Orr statue right on the steps of TD Garden. I took a picture with it. And I think, if I remember correctly, there's one with Larry Bird, if I remember correctly. I don't remember. But Bobby Orr is definitely there.
Yeah, thinking even Red Auerbach might be one. But at the same time, I mean, Larry Bird had a hell of a career as well, with what he was able to do during his time. And then, of course, he ended up coaching the Indiana Pacers for a while and was in the front office after that. Only basketball game I've ever seen in person was the Toronto Raptors when they actually played a preseason game up here in Buffalo back in, I think it was 96 or 97.
Really?
And that was actually the time. I don't 100% remember who they played, but it was Damon Stoudemire's rookie season or his second season, and I actually got to watch him play, and he was a great player for the Raptors for the time he was with them. I mean, he was their first overall pick.
Well, it's funny you say that because
in franchise history.
It's funny you say that because we're talking about games that we've been to in the past. You said you went to a preseason Raptors game in Buffalo, and and I just said it a few minutes ago, I went to a Knicks game about 12 years ago, and it was a regular season game. So I went to a Knicks game at the Garden, and I remember they were playing the Portland Trailblazers, and I remember this for a fact because I was invited to go to the game, and I'm like, I don't care, but I'll go, for the
Yeah,
fun, why not?
of course.
So I mean, the game as a whole was okay. The atmosphere at the Garden was all right. I don't think I would do it again. I mean, I haven't bought Knicks tickets in God knows how long, and I probably will never will touch Knicks tickets. Ranger tickets I'll definitely touch, but Knicks tickets, forget it. Don't. Yeah, you could tell me to go fuck myself on that point, but
Yeah.
no, it's just funny how it is. Like you went to see the Raptors, and I saw the Knicks.
Yeah. So actually, you know what? I just looked it up. So it was against the Miami Heat back
Oh,
on October 18th, 1996.
and you remember that?
Well, I had to Google the date, but I remember being there. It was
Yeah,
actually it was one of the first events that the arena ever had. So like in terms of basketball, and it was like I think it was the inaugural season of the KeyBank Center opened. So
yeah, it's funny because I remember the Knicks were playing the Portland Trailblazers when I went to see the Knicks play at that time.
yeah, still remember Damian Lillard's 3-pointer getting to move to the next round of the playoffs before he ended up jumping ship, went to Toronto, won a title, and then he ended up jumping ship again. So
Hmm.
that's kind of how it worked out. But all is good. But then of course, even if I were to talk even further into basketball too, I mean, I'm Tim Duncan, one of the most unassuming players you'll ever see, but man, he was damn good at what he did. So
Yeah.
it's kind
Now I
of what he
assume a
did.
lot of Buffalonians are Raptors fans.
So there's a little mix of everything. So I mean, definitely Raptors are one. Cleveland's another one because they're only a few hours away on this side of the border. You do get some Knicks fans, some Nets fans, not as much as what you'd have downstate. So it tends to be more Cleveland and Toronto, from what
Interesting,
I've
because
seen.
down here, obviously, I said before, there's a lot of Knicks fans that are here because
Mhm.
it's very divided. It's like baseball with the Mets and the Yankees, and then the
Oh yeah,
Islanders and the Rangers. It's very divided. So, like, you have a majority of the state being Knicks fans, and then Nets fans, and then I mentioned before there were some Celtics fans and Lakers fans and some Miami
Mhm.
Heat fans. So they're all over the place. So
Yeah. You
that's
get a
just an
little bit of
interesting concept,
everything.
right?
Yeah, but no, I would say Cleveland and Toronto are the two predominant teams for the most part, at least from what I've seen up here and all that. But I do like to follow the Raptors when I can. I mean, just because of proximity and there are times I do like I actually would like to see a basketball game in Cleveland at some point. So or go see a regular season game in Toronto
It's
sometime.
funny you
So
say that because I actually was just thinking about this the other day when we were into Cleveland. Is in the summer when we go see when the Bills play the Browns, if they play them in September, I would love to go to a Cleveland Guardians game or a Cleveland Indians game. I would love to do that.
yeah, if they have something going on, that wouldn't be bad. I mean, we were pretty close too. We saw Progressive Field. We drove by it on the way to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So
Hell, I would go back to Cincinnati to see the Reds.
yeah. Yeah, Cincinnati was a hell of a good time. I enjoyed it. That was a great
Oh,
hotel too. Love that hotel.
by the way, I need to tell you something.
Mhm.
Do you remember Brian Gibbons, the manager for the Blue Jays?
Yeah.
He's the new bench coach for the Mets.
Okay.
Why?
Yeah.
Like,
Seriously.
why is Brian Gibbons the new bench coach for the Mets? Like, fuck me. I mean, I know free agency just started, but like, Jesus Christ,
It's like, yeah.
unbelievable.
I'm like kind of like speechless on that one, but
I'm serious. Like last week, the Mets stunned us when we were, or a couple of weeks ago. I think it happened when we were in Cincinnati, and the Mets bring in Carlos Mendoza. Holy shit!
yeah, I was not expecting that.
No, I don't think many people did. And then now you bring in Brian Gibbons. What the fuck, dude? Are the
Yeah.
Mets now going to become the Blue Jays? Are they now going to trade with the Jays to get Bo Bichette? I would adore that idea.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. That seriously is a good question. But we have two last things we want to get to, and we still have like a good 6 or 7 minutes left. But the NHL is introducing a new international tournament.
Where do I even begin with this topic? First of all,
Why are
I
they
know,
doing it?
yeah, first off, why are you doing it again? Second
Mhm.
of all, why are there only four countries? Four. That's
Right.
it. So you have the two premier teams in North America and the two premier teams in Europe, which
Mhm.
is Sweden, and I believe the other one is
I would say, is it Finland or something?
Yeah, Finland or Sweden's one of them. And of course you have the United States and Canada. It's like, why
Mhm.
the fuck are you only doing 4 teams and you call yourselves an international series? What about teams like the Czech Republic? What about Russia? What about,
Yeah, what about
Denmark even?
or the Swiss League?
Well, yeah. And the worst part is this might be the last time ever with this old core, at least with with the Stamkoses and the Crosbys and the
Mhm.
Ovechkins. That might be their last chance to play on an international stage because the NHL fucked its own rules with, oh, we have to play the younger players in the Olympics, or oh, we can't play the NHL players here. Like, people will pay a good exorbitant amount of
Oh
money
yeah.
to see NHL players represent their country. And I think the last time that the NHL was sending players over that it was actually worth it was 2 times. I think one was in 2010 with Vancouver, with the US losing to Canada in the gold medal game, and
Mhm.
then in Sochi in Russia with TJ Oshie getting every shootout attempt. I think that was the game too. And John Tavares, I
Yeah.
think, tore his ACL, if I remember correctly, in that tournament. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then, of course, they did that very awkward World Cup of Hockey where it was like Team World or like Team,
Yeah,
Europe
which
and
made
Canada.
no sense.
I mean, it was entertaining for what it was, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird, like, to think about this. It's like the NHL just then decides, oh, we're gonna do an international tournament. Like, what's the point of even having this proposal if you're only gonna do 4 countries?
Right. It's like open it up, have some of the best teams in some of the other leagues join in. I mean, you have the KHL, you have the Swiss League, you have leagues in the UK that are good. You have like you mentioned Sweden, you have Finland, again, two powerhouses that are there. I mean, shit, you got like the Netherlands and Denmark you could probably tap
Yeah,
into.
Finland too.
So,
I mean, hell,
yeah,
I would even be open to China or Austria or
right.
any of these other international like countries. And I love how the hypocrisy is in play in this because the NHL has been saying for at least 2 or 3 years since, obviously Connor Bedard
Mhm.
exponentially got people to watch. But if you want to be on the level of like the NFL or the NBA or even the MLB, and the Major League Baseball is going to London next year with the Mets Phillies games next year.
Mhm.
And then the NBA has different players from different countries, like in Australia and the
Yeah.
UK and Germany or any other country that you could think
Yeah.
of. The NBA, I know for a fact, has a lot of diversity from different
Mhm.
countries.
They
The
do.
NHL does 4 fucking countries that are well known for that particular sport. If you're trying to go down and trying to get a bigger audience, why don't you expand the tournament and actually put in more teams that people would
Mhm.
get people to watch, like
Yeah.
Mexico City, even like cities like that?
Right. I mean, the NBA does it pretty well. I mean, they've played games in China, they've played games in the UK, they've played games in Asia. They've done games in Mexico City, which I think they do at least one or two every year now. So
Yeah, the
they've played
NFL, same
there.
thing.
Yeah, they've played in Canada. A few times with just with the fact that the Grizzlies, of course, they used to be in Vancouver, now they play for Memphis, but I mean, they've had the Memphis Grizzlies come back to Vancouver and do some preseason stuff every now and then, and they're good with a lot of their players coming from overseas because look at players who used to be here and who are here now. Manu Ginobili was a French player. You have for example, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's from Greece. Victor Wembanyama, the number one overall pick who went to the San Antonio Spurs. He's from Kenya. You have a lot of players that have a lot of international experience. Yao Ming was from China. That was one of the biggest signings back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And there
Yeah,
was a lot of stuff going on, and he did a lot to expand the game even further. So
yeah.
the NBA does a very good job with that. The
And you know
NHL
what,
is
too?
like piss poor with it.
But look at the NFL. They put games over in London, Germany, Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to put one up in Canada. You know who the most notorious foreigner is to play in the NFL? Jordan Mailata, who's a lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's from Australia. Think
Mm-hmm.
about that. This was a rugby player, and
Yeah.
then he becomes a lineman in the NFL alongside a future Hall of Famer and Jason Kelsey. And
Mm-hmm.
the NHL has the audacity to say, "Oh, we want to grow the game. We want the NHL to grow." And yet you come up with a fucking league with only 4 teams. Like, how does that make any sense?
It
Like,
makes no sense.
Like, it makes no sense. And yet, and this is why I cannot fucking wait until Gary Bettman retires. Because so help me, Gary Bettman cares more about fucking Phoenix or Arizona. Really, really think about that. He cares more about saving a dying franchise in the desert than actually expanding the game from all across the globe. That's a fucking joke.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And Bettman honestly should have been gone a long time ago.
Seriously. And I think this is his last term is up this time. I don't know when he'll retire, but it's coming pretty soon. I know this for a fact that Bettman is going to retire soon, but the question is when, not if.
Right. So
I'm just saying, I don't think
hopefully it's sooner than later.
Yeah, I don't think Bill Daly will be any better if he were to be promoted to be commissioner. Because let's be honest, Bill Daly is basically Bettman's little bitch. We know this.
Yeah, he's a yes man.
Yeah, basically, he just does whatever Gary Bettman wants. I want the NHL to bring in somebody who's a businessman who loves hockey and is willing to grow the game, not what fucking Bettman is doing, where, oh, we have to save the Coyotes from relocating. Oh, we have to put 50 billion outdoor games in random locations in the South. You know, things like that. Stop doing what the NHL has been doing for God knows how long. It was a good start with Bedard when he first got drafted. You hyped him, great. That's a starting point. And then you just go down back to what you have been doing for the last 20 years. And this is why, quote unquote, nobody watches hockey, because the NHL doesn't successfully get characters. Like, the NFL has a lot of characters, and yet if you look at the personalities, the NHL barely has people who has any character, because a lot of them are either too polite or not funny. I mean, there are characters, but you have to be a hardcore fan to really be indulged into this. It's like the WWE. If you're trying to promote wrestling in the WWE, you want to have wrestlers or characters who have a personality, and that's what sells. And I mean, I'm not a wrestling person either, but I know for a fact that if you want to boom success with, the WWE in that standpoint, you need characters who could actually play up to the role of the hero and the villain. You need both of that. The NHL doesn't know how to do that. They don't have a starting point.
Exactly. And I could name probably at least 10 players in the NFL and the NBA that are characters right now. I probably, easily. I mean, and one of the things we see it in football all the time. I mean, you've got some characters that we see every single week. So football makes it interesting. Basketball, they've kind of rebounded and become more interesting. Hockey, it's the same old shit that you see all the time. But with that being said, though, I did want to go to our last thing because we're right at the top, but you're going on the road. You're going to be in Philadelphia for when our Bills play there.
Oh,
and
boy.
You're going into the big time Eagles nest, and you've got your bodyguard trainer going with you.
Yeah, I actually was talking to trainer for the last 2 or 3 days about leading up to Philadelphia. You know what he said to me that was that really stood out to me?
Yeah.
He said to me that he's only been to one Eagles game in his life.
Really? And he lives there.
He lives in 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia.
Like, dude, go to some more games, man.
Yeah, and I even asked him, and I'm like, how many Eagles games have you been to? Or how many Flyers games have you been to in your life? He said 1 or 2. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. Okay, that's surprising.
Right.
I mean, I can understand if money's tight, I get it. But, dude, you're older than me. You would probably be late 30s, early 40s. And yeah, here you are. You're telling me, I've only been to one Flyers game or one Eagles game.
Yeah, it's weird because, I've been to enough Sabres games. I've been to plenty of Bills games. Been to 2 Mets games out of all that.
Well, yeah, I could say the
been
same
to a Raptors game. Right. So,
I mean, look at me. I've been to a lot of Islanders games in my life. I've been to a handful of Islanders games in my 30 years of existence. I've been to a handful of Mets games. I went to a Knicks game. I went to a handful of football games from out of state too with you. Yeah. And then on top of all that, we're not making fun of him personally. It's more of
Right.
just, it's like a surprise because you're older than me, and
Right.
like,
And you're an Eagles fan, and yet you've never been there except for like once.
yeah. And I even asked him, like, yo, is there any place that we can go that you would recommend to eat? And he says, oh, there's crab fries. I'm like, okay, what's the place called? And he was like, oh, it's like something called like Nick and Richie's or something like that. I don't exactly remember, but he said crab fries is an exclusive food item in Philadelphia. And I'm like,
Interesting.
okay.
Hey, I'll eat crab any day of the week.
Yeah, but generally speaking about the trip, I am fairly excited about this trip because we're gonna be doing a lot and we've already planned everything out. Like on Saturday, like we're getting there like Friday afternoon. We're probably gonna spend the night, eat dinner in Philly, relax, whatever.
Mm.
The next morning, we're going to the Amish country for a couple of hours, and then we have a light show on what is called the Miracle on 13th Street in Philadelphia, which is a Christmas light show. And then, of course, Sunday fun day is the Eagles game, and then on Monday we're going on a full tour of the entire city, including Betsy Ross's house.
Nice. Nice. Very good. The only thing I will give you for advice, do not go to the neighborhood called Kensington.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's something we have in mind that
Yeah.
we got to put down. You know, don't go to Kensington because that's
Right.
where all the druggies are in Philadelphia.
Yep. Oh, and speaking of the chat, Trainer is actually in the chat.
Ah, fuck. Here we
He ends up
go.
saying, I've been to a lot of Flyers and Phillies games, but yeah, only been to one Eagles game.
Well, I mean, see, that's the math I don't understand. He said he's been to a handful of Flyers games, but one fucking Eagles game, dude. Come on. What? Where's the logic behind that? You're a resident in Philly.
Who knows? Maybe
Jesus
he'll
Christ.
maybe he'll go to more Eagles games after all this.
Like, put it this way, I've been to a handful of Jets games in my life, and that's in New Jersey. I have to travel 2 or 3 hours every time I go there. Not as frequently now because I'm traveling, doing Road to 32. But at that point in time, I would constantly go to every Bills Jets game every year at MetLife. That would take me about 3 hours, without
Yeah.
traffic in Jersey. But even by that standpoint, I'm just standing there. I'm like, okay, this is getting redundantly boring. And then all of a sudden now, here we are. We're going to an Eagles game on Sunday, and I'm just like, all right, we'll see what the city of brotherly love offers me. But I am excited to go to the belly of the beast, though. So I mean, and obviously, I'll be the only person in the history of this page and this channel and the show to say that I've been to both Philadelphia and Boston. And both cities at that point would want
Mhm.
to eat me alive.
Right. Well, I remember when you went to the New England game last year, so I do remember that. But hey, and the last thing I will say though, hey, MetLife Stadium, congratulations! You were voted in the Fox News poll as the worst stadium in all of football.
I hate MetLife Stadium. I
And
hate it.
and FedEx Field is no longer voted the worst. It's now number 2 for the worst.
How what does MetLife do to deserve that spot? Like, yeah, it's a shithole. Don't get me wrong, but it's
Right.
like, how did it jump from FedEx Field? FedEx Field is much older than MetLife.
Right, right. So apparently, in this specific poll, it turns out 18.4% of the vote went to MetLife Stadium, 13.9% went to FedEx Field. So, hey, maybe the new scoreboard at FedEx Field maybe was a saving grace.
Or no. How about this? Let's rewind that for a minute. From the Giants Commanders game this weekend. After the game, I don't know if you read this or not, but apparently the water supply at FedEx Field was not working, and the players were forced to not take a shower. Both the Commanders and Giants players, and there
Yeah,
were
that's bad.
numerous complaints throughout the end of the game. We're like, "Yo, there's no water at
Right.
all." So they
That's
had to
pretty
go with
bad.
and they all had to go into a big group hug, or like as if they had to go into a shower in prison. If you drop a bar of soap, everybody has their ass cracked on. That's
Right.
the equivalent of that smell of probably what would happen at FedEx Field when all the players on the Commanders and Giants couldn't take a shower together.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And FedEx Field is brutal, but yeah, MetLife has actually unseated its brutalness.
You know what's stunning is that when Brittany and I went to FedEx Field in September to see the Commanders, Brett thought it wasn't as bad as people say it is. And I'm just standing there, I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say though, FedEx Field, as much of a shithole it is a lot easier to navigate than MetLife Stadium and Paycor Stadium.
Oh,
Both of those stadiums.
Paycor was brutal to get through.
Oh my God. I will never go back there again.
They got to do some work in that stadium. Seriously.
They have to. And they're supposedly getting a new stadium in a few years in Cincinnati. Like, why?
Actually, they're going to renovate.
They should renovate. It's a piece of shit. Yeah. I don't understand. Like, it's like spray. It's like hairspraying pieces of shit, or you're trying to cover it up and paint or whatever it is, and you spray it to make it look pretty. But in deep side, deep down, it's still a piece of shit.
Exactly. Outside the stadium looks really cool. The whole neighborhood around Paycor, really cool.
Yeah,
and walking on that old ass bridge, it was really cool. Yep. But inside the stadium, yeah, you got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, MLB.com just confirmed Brian Gibbons is the new bench coach of the New York Mets.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So, oh, man. You actually got me thinking of that Leonard Skinner song called That Smell for a moment when he mentioned the whole water supply thing.
That's disgusting. But yeah. I will say this. I actually read the seating chart for Lincoln Financial Field. You want to hear the most surprising outcome about the link?
What's that?
There's no 300 section.
Doesn't it go like straight to 400 or something?
No, listen to this. So the highest seat differential, the highest you could go is section 244 on the home side at Lincoln Financial Field.
That's real. That's weird. Like, what do they do? Like, go double digits for like the lower bowl or something?
Well, the way this map is played out, you have a whole section of 100 areas all across the perimeter of the link. I mean, any football stadium, really.
Sure.
And in between all that, there is an L section. Literally, there's like LS2 or LS3, LS4, LS5. In between all that,
probably loge seating is what that probably stands for. Because I know PPG Paints Arena does something similar.
Yeah, and then there's a Miller Lite flight deck in M7 and M8. And then in between all that is section C20 or C15 all the way to C27. And then on the other side is C6 through C35. And that I really don't trust my gut on this situation. But based on that map, I feel like Lincoln Financial Field is going to be a similar take to Paycor Stadium. I really hope that's not the case, but I fully expect Lincoln Financial Field to be a hell of a lot better inside than Paycor Stadium, because Paycor was just fucking depressing.
It was bad. That was not a good stadium to walk through. But especially when we told the story about how we ended up going up on the wrong part of the 300 level and we had to go like down like multiple elevators, and then we still ended up on the wrong level. So then at least for the usher, thank God she at least got us where we needed to be. But that was just brutal with how that was set up and nothing connecting.
Yeah. And I even said that on the Road to 32 episode, how we had to miss warm-ups because of that disaster. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I really hope that, just based on that chart, I really, really hope, and I'll tell you all about it next week, but I really hope that when I go to the Eagles game, it's not like that at all. But then again, Lincoln Financial Field is a much nicer stadium on the outside than Paycor. I don't know about the inside. I'll take a look and see what I can find.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, I know that it's a lot more decorative in Philly than it was in Cincinnati, with team posters and saying "Go Eagles, fly, go Birds," things like that. But there's also Eagles memorabilia, which I don't really know what to expect when I go to Lincoln Financial Field. But one thing I do know, and I'm mentally prepared for it, is I am mentally prepared to get booed by Eagles fans and probably get shit thrown at me. I would not be surprised. Yeah. But my biggest rule of thumb is do not interact with them.
Yeah, you're better off. Paycor was just the gray box. Is literally all it was.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'll see what what Lincoln Financial thing brings to the table next week. I mean, again, it's Philadelphia. It's a much bigger market than Cincinnati. I mean, when you have a stadium like the Link or Veterans Stadium, even Veterans Stadium was a dump. But then again, when you take it into account, that stadium before it got torn down was like 30, 40 years old. The Link is already at its half of its lifespan. Between the age of 20 to 23 at minimum. I mean, it's still got light years ahead of its lifespan, but still, Eagles fans, they celebrate hard, dude. I'm telling you. I don't really know what to expect, but I know that Philadelphia is one of those cities you've been wanting to go to for a while for any event, like the Flyers, the Phillies, the Eagles. I
Mhm.
don't know, but I know for a fact I'll be in good hands because Trainer's going to be there.
Yep, for sure. It'll be a good thing. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. And then Trainer actually mentioned if he had his choice of all the Philly teams, he would pick going to the Phillies or the Flyers games over the Eagles.
Hmm. And it's funny because I was talking to you about this out of, off air about how we would potentially be going to a Flyers game. Me and Rob Hazu, we were
Mhm.
talking about going to a Flyers game in March, but we have to see how everything plans out because I'm going
Yeah.
on a cruise in Florida in
Mhm.
early March, probably around the time of the trade deadline in the NHL, like
Right.
March 8th or something like that. But I know for a fact that I'm supposed to be going to the game on March 23rd against the Bruins in Philadelphia. So I really don't know what to expect. But
Nice.
I am excited about going there. Is if it's as easy as navigating as possible, I'll deeply consider it. Taking the train or driving to
Yeah,
Philly. I really don't know. But we'll have to play
for
it
sure.
out because I can't predict that part yet. But
Right.
but the Eagles game, I'm pretty much expecting this to be like a heavyweight fight between the fans and teams, obviously. I mean, I don't know what to expect in Philadelphia.
Mhm. Right. But yeah, that'll be the fun part. In fact, actually, when you're up here next month and we take a day trip up to Toronto, I mean, at least I figure, what? Hey, we'll do the same thing like we did last time. We'll park outside Toronto, take the subway in, and we're there very easily.
Yeah, and then go to the CN Tower, the Hockey Hall of Fame, which I have to get tickets for soon, by the way.
Yep.
And yeah, that's gonna be a fun Road to 32 episode as well. Is Buffalo.
Yep. Absolutely. So with that, I just want to say, Trainer, good to see you in the chat, man. And I know it's been a while since we've talked to you on here, so good to see you. Everyone else who ended up watching, thanks for joining us as usual. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Don't do anything stupid. And of course, we'll be back next week. So until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you next time.
See you later, guys, and happy Thanksgiving.